Hello and welcome to the We Are Careers show, and I hope you're having a fantastic week wherever you are in the career sphere. Sabiha, how's your week looking so far?
Oh my God, I can't believe it's Christmas almost, Chris. Where did the year go? Where did 2024 go? Is anybody else sitting here in this space right now thinking how we got to the end of 2024? So, folks, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for another jam-packed episode. For those of you that are joining us for the very first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hit that subscribe button. And if you like today's episode, make sure you hit the like button as well on whatever platform that you are joining us on. Now, the We Are Career show is your fortnightly go-to career enhancement bite size for your continuous professional development by helping you, by giving you the latest issues that are impacting the career development sector. Now, each show we bring you the latest updates in the sector to keep you well informed. Plus, we bring you an inspirational guest on topics that matter to you. And oh, have we got a wowzer one for you today? The aim of this show is simple. It's to connect and build a strong community of career professionals so that we can serve our clients in the best possible way. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I'm known as Meet Sabiha, and I am a talent acquisition director, which means that I help companies match with best talents. And as always, I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Chris Webb. Chris, what do we have coming up today for the final show of 2024?
Yes, and as you say, hard to believe really that we've kind of come around to this so quickly. I think when we were sort of creating the new schedule for the podcast in the summer, I don't think we anticipated we'd kind of reach this moment quite so quickly, but here we are. And we're ending on a really kind of hot, timely topic, as you say. We're going to be talking all about technical education. Now, this is a topic that has got a lot of airtime recently. If we think about the kind of the new Labour government, creation of Skills England, further investment in kind of further education, creation of things like foundation apprenticeships. So there's a lot of talk at the moment around technical education and kind of what that looks like in different guises. But it's a really big topic. Not always kind of easy to know what do we mean by it and what are the key things that we might need to be aware of. So to help us dig into that topic, we are delighted to have with us today Kim Newman from the Career Development Institute. So Kim is Technical Education Program Manager. And Kim, rather than kind of me try and do an introduction for you, just very briefly for any of our kind of viewers and listeners who perhaps aren't familiar with you or your work, can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm very pleased to be here today, so thanks for inviting me along. As you just said, I'm the Technical Education Programme Manager at the CDI. I started this role just over a year ago. It's hard to believe it's a year in already. And in a nutshell, it's all about raising awareness of technical education pathways amongst the careers profession specifically. As well as my current role, I am also a career development practitioner myself. I've been working in careers roles for many years, longer than I care to think, really. And much of that has been working as a careers advisor in schools. So I very much understand how difficult it is for careers professionals to keep up to date with all the changes that are happening in careers and in education. And I'm really passionate about supporting fellow careers professionals to keep up to date and to feel confident and equipped in their work. So I'm really, really enjoying this role, and I'm looking forward to talking about it more throughout the course of this session.
Excellent, Kim. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know this is an area that isn't necessarily something that I know a lot about. So I'm actually really looking forward to learning more about it because it's not really in a space that I've ever worked in or have to work in. So I know I'm going to be learning a lot from you today. Now, for previous viewers and listeners of the show, you'll remember we always have a Careers Cheers segment. And of course, today would be no different. And the Careers Cheers is a time in the show where we celebrate innovative and inspiring members of the careers community, or simply giving a shout out to something positive that's happening in the careers world since our previous show. So, Kim, I'm going to come to you in a second, but I'm going to dive into my Careers Cheers first. And it's actually a resource very much fitting with what we're talking about here today. So, if folks haven't heard about the Careers and Enterprise Company, have got a website where they've got sort of a ton of information, and specifically related to what we're going to be diving into today, they also have technical education pathways resources, and we're going to make sure that we include the link in the show information, so take a look at that. Now, these resources will support any career professional and anyone who's just sort of curious in this space, with a wide range of technical educational pathways which are available for young people. Now, it's been created in partnership with the Association of Employment and Learning Providers, and the resources are designed to explain pathways available to folks, as well as promoting the wider work of the training provider sector. So that link will be included. So that's what I'm sort of going to giving a careers cheers to. Kim, how about you? Who or what have you selected for your careers cheers?
Well, interestingly enough, mine is a group of people as well. It is colleagues from the Department of Education that I've been working with very, very closely with over the past few months while I've been involved in this project. And specifically over this last autumn term, we've been running a series of webinars in partnership with the Department of Education, the DFE. So it's all those people who have been supported by those behind the scenes people that we don't see very often, we don't hear a lot about. They don't get a chance to speak to careers professionals that much, and they certainly don't get shout outs like this. So I think it's important to thank them. And then alongside that, everyone who came along to those webinars, and just it's been really good to see the interest in this area and to see the commitment to professional development as well.
Thank you so much for that careers cheers, Kim. And Chris, how about you? Who or what have you selected for today's show?
Yeah, thanks, Sabiha. So yeah, a group of people for me too. And mine kind of goes out to, I think, possibly a group that I've given a careers cheers to before, maybe kind of many episodes ago. And these are kind of members of the Graduate Career Support Network. So this is a network that's kind of been created now for about probably 2 years or over 2 years now. Made up of over kind of 50 representatives from universities, or I think over 50 universities, about over 100 representatives, in fact. And the idea is we kind of meet on a monthly basis to talk about all things affecting kind of transitions for final year students and early career graduates. Lots of kind of careers colleagues that work in roles directly supporting those types of individuals. And it's just become the most fantastic community over the past couple of years. Regular monthly meetings. We get lots of kind of speakers in terms of current graduates sharing their voice. We sometimes get employers coming to speak. And the idea really is to just kind of keep that sharing of best practice going, but also kind of as a bit of reassurance that actually each of us is sort of doing what we need to do in our roles, and that if there is kind of some innovation happening, we're aware of that and kind of being sort of plugged into that as well. So it's a great community. We've just had our last, quite recently, our last network meeting of the year. But yeah, fantastic kind of space to be in, and a really supportive community of careers professionals. So big careers cheers to them.
Excellent, Chris. Thank you for that. So that's careers cheers done for 2024. Let's dive into today's topic. So what are we going to be unpicking today, Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Sabiha. So I think, we talked at the top of the program about technical education. It's a big, broad topic. And it's the sort of thing where, as you said, Sabiha, some careers professionals are likely to maybe have a little bit more knowledge about this area perhaps than others. So I think, Kim, to kind of kick things off, what would be sort of really useful for viewers and listeners is just to find out a little bit more, I guess, about the technical education program, so the project that you've kind of been working on with the CDI and the Gatsby Foundation, what that sort of looks like, and I guess kind of what's going on in that space in order to raise awareness of technical education.
Okay, well, the Technical Education Programme is a 3-year programme that's funded by the Gatsby Foundation, which you just mentioned, and I'm sure people will be more than aware of who they are, but it's actually managed by the CDI, so we're managing the project over the next 3 years. It's all about raising awareness amongst the careers profession about what technical education pathways are all about. Obviously, there's lots going on out there working with young people to raise awareness of technical education, but we are specifically aiming to support careers advisors in this area. And when we talk about technical education, we're referring to 3 quite distinctive paths: apprenticeships, T-levels, and higher technical qualifications, or HTQs, as you will hear them referred to as well. At the very, very start of the programme, about a year or so ago, we did some research into careers advisors' perceptions of technical education and also the levels of awareness of the different areas. And the whole aim was to kind of see where there were any gaps in people's knowledge, if there were gaps and what they were, and how we could best support careers professionals with meeting those gaps and filling the knowledge gaps there. We very much recognise, as I said earlier, it can be very difficult to keep up to date with everything that's going on in the world of careers and education. Things are constantly changing. People are busy in their work, and there's been a lot happening within this area over the past few months as well, with a relatively new government in place. Lots of changes taking place. There's a current review of post-16 qualifications taking place, for example. So there's lots and lots of things happening. And what that research found was that careers professionals are fantastic at keeping up to date with their knowledge and their professional development, but there were some gaps, particularly in relation to T-levels and also the HTQs, the higher technical qualifications. They're relatively new concepts, so people were less aware of those really. And we also recognise that we all have our own opinions and our own biases. And as careers professionals, we aim to be impartial in everything that we do. So it's really important that we keep up to date and be fully informed. We tell the young people that we work with that to make a good decision, you have to be fully informed, and it's exactly the same for us as careers professionals. We need to make sure that we are kept up to date with everything so that those biases don't creep into the kind of advice and guidance that we give.
And do you think, Kim, in terms of sort of the research that's been undertaken so far, particularly the perceptions, I guess, is what you found from your perspective as kind of someone who's been a careers advisor surprising in any way, or do you feel it's sort of kind of backed up, I guess, your own lived experience in terms of working in that space?
Yeah, I think whenever we set out with this research, we kind of sort of knew, or kind of pretty much could guess what the conclusions would be, but we wanted that firm evidence to back it up. So we knew that careers advisors do have good knowledge. It was never about saying careers advisors don't have good knowledge, but it's about seeing where there are gaps. So obviously with any new qualification like T-levels, okay, they've been around for a while, but they're still relatively new. The idea of higher technical qualifications is certainly very new, and we knew that there would be gaps there. So yeah, it was very much backed up. But going back to what I said about, it's very important that we do keep our information up to date and our knowledge up to date. For example, I had someone say to me recently, well, I don't really talk to my students about T-levels because 99% of universities don't accept them anyway. Well, that's for starters totally untrue. Universities do accept T-levels and increasingly so, but also that was an example of a bias that was creeping in there to me that, people may have. So the point is, we need to make sure that our advice and guidance is based on fact and not based on our own personal opinions about things.
Yeah, and I guess, as you say, it's an area in technical education where perhaps some of the kind of common key bits of information to know are not as present as they might be for other aspects of the education system, where it's maybe ingrained in people. It's a bit more kind of, I guess we consider it a bit more traditional. People have got a bit more of a fundamental understanding of it. Whereas, as you say, with technical education, stuff that's coming in that's quite new, like T-levels, like HTQs, where if you've not had interaction with them, if, say, students are looking at going into them, it's quite possible that you might miss information about those kind of types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, a lot of the information is, and there's lots of good information out there on technical education, but it tends to be aimed at young people, perhaps at their parents. But we want to get in there and really create resources that were aimed at careers professionals, because their level of knowledge needs to be that little bit deeper, and they will want to know different things to what a young person might need. So that bringing me back to the technical education program, it's about making it a little bit easier for careers professionals to keep up to date with everything that's going on. And we've been delivering a series of webinars, for example, over the autumn term, and that it's been really interesting to see the sorts of questions that the careers advisors are asking at these sessions. So it helps us to see that, number one, the programme is needed. It's very important and relevant. And two, exactly what type of support is needed, because we didn't want to second guess that. And we want to continuously talk to careers professionals and find out what it is that they need. We're in the process of creating resources for careers advisors on technical education, and also looking at creating a hub of resources on the CDI website as well.
That's great. I know we're going to kind of revisit that sort of towards the end of the podcast when we talk about kind of next steps for the program. But Sabiha, I want to sort of bring you in here because you mentioned at the top of the show that obviously, you know, this area of technical education is one that maybe you don't have quite so much experience of, I guess, in your day-to-day work, just because of the clients you work with. So any thoughts, I guess, on what we've talked about so far?
Thank you so much for that, Kim, for sharing your insights. And Chris, you know, that's a really good point. What does someone like a professional like myself, who isn't necessarily directly involved because of the career work that we do, what should we, you know, in my head, I'm just thinking, what should I know? And then I was just thinking about myself, well, I'm an aunt. I've got young people in my life in various different guises. I've got neighbors, you know, people who might be interested in these, you know, sort of technical education and different pathways. And I know in more recent times, with the cost of, you know, the traditional education, families are rethinking the traditional pathway, and I know this might be potentially a pathway for families to consider. So that's sort of where my thought processes were sort of sitting at as Kim was sharing her insights, as well as the work that Kim and the team at the CDI and beyond are doing to raise this awareness. Kim, would you say that in recent years you're seeing much more of an appetite for technical education from the variety of different stakeholders? Number one, I guess, is part one of the question. And do you think there's a more increased interest in the degree apprenticeships from both students and parents?
Yeah, most definitely. As you said at the very, very start, technical education is a very hot topic at the moment. There's been some interesting research carried out, for example, by the Age Foundation into public attitudes towards things like T-levels and apprenticeships and so on. And parents certainly are very interested in those pathways for the reasons that you've just said. I think a lot of that has been to do with, there's been a lot of press attention, particularly recently, about the rising costs of university and people starting to look at different pathways for those reasons. Now, I'm very much in favour of people having choice, and university is right for some people and not right for other people, in the same way that you know, technical education pathways are right for some people and not for others. So, you know, but what has been good about all this attention is that it has brought different pathways into the, you know, the career sphere even more. It's brought them into the spotlight, and it also brings the need for good careers guidance into the spotlight as well. So I think that's been really, really important. The current government really committed to...
I was just about to ask you, Kim. I was just about to say, let's get a bit political here now.
Yeah.
You know, because we've seen in 2024 two political governments taking two very different stances. So in terms of the politics, when it comes to technical education, do you feel the needle is moving in the direction that you would like as a champion of technical education?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's obviously early days. We've still got a relatively new government, but they certainly seem very committed to vocational and technical education. And we've seen this through their investment into further education, into all their policy work. We mentioned earlier, there's reviews going on at the minute into the curriculum and into the qualifications landscape at post-16 as well. So it's certainly something that they're very much looking into. I took part recently in a stakeholder interview with the DFE, putting forward the views of the careers profession as well. And, you know, just concerns around which qualifications are going to be defunded and which are going to be kept on. And we are expecting the results of that review at the end of this year. So we'll be posting lots of that. We're going to be holding a webinar on the outcome of that review as well. But of course, there is more to be done, and that's why the technical education programme is here, to keep everyone up to date, and, you know, keep everyone up to date with all the most recent pathways and the most recent information on those pathways as well. Interestingly, the newly revised Gatsby benchmarks are out this week, which you may have seen, and they've put much more emphasis on the careers professional being at the heart of the careers programme in schools. So I think that's really important. And I think if we are going to be the go-to people for young people on pathways or on any type of pathway, we need to make sure that our own information is kept up to date and our own knowledge is topped up. So we're trying to make that a little bit easier for everyone in the technical education pathway sphere.
Yeah, it's a great segue about the recent relaunch of Gatsby, because again, people that have read the report, all 122 pages of it, will know that one of the key things they mentioned there is about provision of information, which was obviously an existing Gatsby benchmark, but there's more focus this time around on being able to kind of tailor that to specific student groups, and particularly parents and carers as well. There's more of a renewed focus on that side of things. So again, exactly as you say, Kim, having that sort of clear knowledge, clear understanding, that confidence, that credibility of what you're sharing, being the right type of stuff. I think it's something we always have to keep on top of as careers professionals. But as you say, particularly as we hopefully take a more central role in all number of kind of projects that the Labour government might be running within education and skills. And obviously that's the hope. It remains to be seen exactly what that looks like in practice. But it leads really nicely, I guess, onto the future of the technical education programme, because as you mentioned, there's been a wide range of work that's gone on already in terms of sort of that initial kind of scoping and perceptions, the information sharing webinars, the awareness raising webinars. What's coming next, I guess, for the technical education programme? What should viewers and listeners maybe look out for? And what's the future really of the programme as we move into 2025?
Well, in the very near future, we've got more webinars coming up on technical education pathways. When the outcome of the review of the qualifications reform is known, we're going to be holding another webinar. But the big thing that we're going to be doing early in the new year is launching our website pages. So there'll be a dedicated resource hub there for careers professionals to look at. So everything they need to know about technical education pathways will be on there. So we will be creating new resources for careers professionals, but we'll also signpost to all the existing good resources that are out there already for young people. So that's the big one, is our resource hub, and lots of new resources coming in the new year.
Kim, can I just come in on that point? Because I'm just thinking, if say I do come across somebody, and as I say, I might not necessarily as a career professional have all of the information, but I might want to signpost. So this could be a parent, this could be a guardian, this could be a carer who's interested in thinking about the young person that's in their care, who might be potentially suitable for one of these pathways. Could they come to this website and this resource in the new year and find sort of information, or is it going to solely be just for career professionals like us?
No, it's really important that this will be publicly available and anyone can go on the CDI page. It's not a members only page, and I think it's really, really important to point that out. Everything we create is free, to mainly for obviously aimed at people working in the careers profession, but obviously anyone can access that, and there will be lots of good resources on there and signposting as well. So yeah, really important that people do access them, because they are free. As I said, we are funded by the Gatsby Foundation, and it's not just for CDI members.
Excellent. That's great to know. And then what else? What other ways can people keep themselves engaged and informed? Because I've sometimes often feel, and I don't know about anybody else and folks that are listening and watching us now as well, I almost feel like it's information overload. I think we've gone before, in the days it was you didn't have access to the information, so it was accessibility. Now I feel it's almost the opposite side of the problem. There's too much information and you don't know what is correct and what isn't, and do you even have time to verify what if that is true and accurate? Because as you say, things are changing all the time. So what advice, what tips would you have for people?
Well, I'd say, first of all, keep an eye out on the CDI website. We will let you know what is coming up. So there is a training and events page on there, and because this is aimed specifically at careers professionals, even though their knowledge is good, we want to break this down into simple chunks for people, because it is a really complicated landscape out there, and we're trying to simplify that really. So for example, one of the things that come out of our research that we did, that a lot of the communications that come out from government are very text heavy, very much information overload, and even though it's very good information, people don't always have time to read it. So we're trying to break that down into smaller bite-sized chunks for people. So one of the other things I do is I try to summarize government communications, any updates, any policy changes. I try to summarize them, and I will put those on social media, so on LinkedIn, also on Facebook. So there's two main pages that I will post, which is the Careers Leaders UK Facebook page and also the CDI Professional Community of Practice groups. Now that one is for CDI members only, but the Careers Leader one is for everyone. So I post in both of those. And that's just a way of keeping up to date with not just our webinars and any training that we're doing, but like I say, bite-sized pieces about any government policy changes or anything new, that any hot topics that are coming up that are of interest to young people. So do keep an eye out for those.
That's great. Thanks, Kim. And as again, I think Sabiha sort of mentioned at the top of the show, but all of the resources that you're hearing or that you're watching as you're kind of tuning into the podcast, you will find these in either the description section on the YouTube video or in the episode notes on Spotify. So we will make sure to share those. Kim, we are rapidly approaching the end of the podcast. So I guess being as it is moving towards the end of the calendar year, we're about to enter kind of 2025. I guess what might be nice is just to sort of ask you, I suppose, for your hopes for the coming year ahead in relation to technical education. So we've talked a lot about this today. We've talked a lot about what some of the challenges are with getting that information out to careers professionals, and I guess some of the potential changes that might be coming from the Labour government. But I guess what would you hope to see in 2025 in relation to technical education that would feel like a really positive move forward?
Well, I'm really looking forward to the outcome of the review into post-16 qualifications, and I think a lot of work has gone into this, and there's been lots of fears and worries within the careers profession about BTEC qualifications going and so on. But I really feel through these consultations that the DFE have been doing that they have been listening, and I think it will be a positive outcome and lots of good news for people. So really looking forward to that and being able to run webinars on that and share information on that. And then I am also really looking forward to launching our new website, because I think that will make it so much easier for people to know exactly where to go for that information, whether it is new resources or whether it's signposting parents or young people to other resources. It'll just be that really specific hub for people. So that's my hopes, that they all come together and that we get the word out there. We're trying to get the word out there as much as possible. As we said, everything we're doing is free, so we want to encourage as many people as possible to get involved. And we want to, my other hope is that careers professionals keep this a two-way process as well, and they let us know what they want from us and what kind of resources they feel that they still need. Even though we've done our research and we have a good idea of what people want, we want people to keep still feeding into that.
I love that. What you're saying there, and there's so much sort of hopeful optimism there, Kim. And a two-way communication is so key to, when it comes to creating resources that are utilized and valued by the people that actually need these resources. It's that time of year, isn't it, folks? It's end of the year. We're all sort of kind of wishful thinking. Perhaps we've all got wonderful festive plans ahead. So, from myself, I want to say wishing everybody a very happy and festive time, however it is that you celebrate. Even if you don't celebrate, we are going to come back in 2025 with another jam-packed set of programs and guests. We want to thank Kim today for joining us today and sharing her exquisite knowledge on technical educational pathways. Chris, your final thoughts and words for today.
Yes, thanks, Sabiha. I think you've covered it all beautifully there, so nothing really more to add, other than really, if you've kind of enjoyed listening or watching the podcast over the last few months since we relaunched, or you've kind of got ideas that you want to get in touch with us about in terms of possible podcast episode topics, or even if you yourself are interested in potentially making an appearance on a future We Are Careers episode, please do reach out to Sabiha or I on LinkedIn, and let us know. We're always really, really keen to kind of hear new ideas, new topics, and new types of discussions that we can kind of bring to the viewership and listenership. So yeah, all that remains to be said is thanks very much for joining us in 2024 as part of the We Are Careers family. Big thank you again to Kim for joining us today for our final episode of 2024, and we will see you all in the career sphere in 2025. Take care.